Alright, so the last part of analysis is a very short one. It's this one here, snack quality and timing. So all I want you to write about in this section here is, when do your clients snack? So when does the client snack? So the first question, and secondly is, what is the quality of snack food like? So if we dive into the example day here, we can see that there's a snack occurs mid-morning, so a couple of decent snacks here. We've got peanuts, almonds, raisins, carrot, so nothing too bad there. We've also got a banana, some cheese, and Ravita crisp breads, so pretty good quality stuff there. Later in the afternoon, you can see multigrain toast and banana with some peanut butter. No big issues there. Obviously a protein shake after the gym there. And it's not really until late at night here. So coming back into the document here, what would I say about the diet we just looked at there? I would say that the client snacks regularly between meals, so both in the morning and afternoons. Most of the snack foods are considered nutritious, some whole grains, some fruits and vegetables, some cheese. Just the night snack, if it was a common theme, I'd mention that the night snack is A, not the best time to be snacking, and B, not the best quality food that he's choosing to snack on there. So obviously indicating that he gets home, opens the cupboards and has a bit of a forage last thing in the day. So yeah, generally pretty good snack food, but just that one snack that I'd be wary of there. So you can pause the video now and have a look at your own client's data. Tell me when they're snacking generally and what's the quality of snack food like. Okay, so now that we've done the analysis, it's time to produce a set of recommendations for our client. Okay, so these recommendations are going to come directly from the analysis that we've done so far. So if we had an example from here, let's say we had looked at 4 days of my client's data here, and it followed the same theme as what you're seeing on here. So plenty of cereals and breads, lots of fruits and veggie, dairy in about the right zone, meat in about the right zone, just a little bit high on the high calorie, non-nutritious type snacks. So the only key pointer I can really pull out of this table at all is the high calorie foods. Now you may have more, you may have 5 things to talk about there if there are improvements to be made. So my first bullet point is my client could try and refrain from eating too many high cal, low nutrition snacks, particularly late at night. Now I put the dot in there because for every bullet point we put in, I want some rationale behind that. Okay, so the rationale for this one for me would be these are needless calories at this time of night and could lead to unwanted weight gain. Brackets, of course I'm talking about fat. Okay, so that would be the extent of a bullet point that I'd be looking for to draw out of that there. Now you might have to talk about not enough fruit and vegetables. Well, if they were low in fruit and veggies, you've got to think to yourself, well, what's the issue with that? And of course, the issue there is the vital micronutrients, the vitamins that they're probably missing out on there. Okay, if they're low in meat, we might be looking at key vitamins there around iron, for example. Protein may be a factor. Okay, and if they were low in grains, then of course we'd be considering things like the vitamins that are involved in grains as well, like the B vitamins are quite common in whole grains. So just a sentence of explanation. We carry on through the document and go to the next part of the analysis and say, well, what can we pull out of this? Now let's see here, they ate more unsaturated fat. That's good. So not too much to talk about there. The client ate less simple carbs and complex. That's good also. So not too much to talk about there either. And then we get to the amount of food, and again, if we followed a common theme, I'd probably kick off with the fact that I'm 300 over. Okay, so if this was consistent throughout 4 days, I'm 300 calories over, I'd go down and put in a bullet point there about that. Carbs, you can see I'm under. fat is probably the major issue there, where we're just about doubling the fat requirement. So a couple of bullet points to come out of there. My client is eating around 300 excess calories a day. Of course, if this translated over 4 days of eating, again, this could lead to unwanted fat gain over time. Now, quite simply, if we go back into here, an easy fix for this would of course be, what is that up to there? 346. There's 350 calories at night, unnecessary calories that don't need to be there. So I recognize that, and I could say in here, this could be easily rectified by removing the night snack. Alright, what else did I find out of that? I found out that my fat was too high. So again, I'd write in a comment here that my client's fat intake is too high compared to the recommendations that they should be having. I'd recommend that they reduce this. Again, I might be able to indicate certain things in the diet where that would be done easily. So if I went into the diet here, and of course I'd be looking primarily for saturated fats here, if I could get rid of them. So the potato chips, bang, there's 10, that could disappear straight away. As I scan through the rest of them, we've got the cheese there at 16, and then we've already got a dose of peanuts and almonds up here. There's probably no need for the peanuts down here at another 12. So already I've identified 10, 20, 30, almost 40 grams that could disappear from that fat total right there, just by going through. Okay, so a good place to make a suggestion in here. You carry on your way through the document. Okay, so we would have covered that one now. We then look at the timing. Then you skip meals. We should talk about the importance of having those meals in place, and then we could talk about the calorie balance through the day and whether they're eating the majority of the calories in a spread-like fashion, or whether it's really lumping around one portion of the day, which is not ideal. So again, read your own summary, find what you said there, and if you think there's improvements to be made, then talk about them in bullet point form with a sentence of rationale after that, discussing why that's important to change this. Of course, you'll finish up with the eating around exercise. If there's any improvements that could be made there, you should definitely talk about them, and of course the snack timing as well. So from that, you should easily be able to find 5 quality points or more with a sentence of reasoning. It's really important that you put that reasoning in. This is where you use that applied knowledge that you've learned over the course so far. And this is the set of recommendations that you would effectively give the client. So they could look at the tables above, they could see black and white or colour where they're going wrong, and then a set of recommendations that they could start to implement. Now your last step is use those recommendations now to build a one-day example diet for the person. Now obviously if we were doing this for real, we'd obviously give more than 1 day with some eating options and that kind of stuff, but this is a good starting point here. I want to show you how to build a day's eating based on the client data there. Okay, so where do we start? Well, the first place we start is with the recommended intake numbers that we'd worked out. So here are my numbers from my calculations I'm going to copy that. I'm going to find a blank sheet over here, and I'm going to paste those guys in. Okay, now this is what I've got to work with, and I want to finish as close to these values as I can in my day's eating, okay, to match the client's needs. Now, there's a couple of little caveats for this here. Okay, I don't mind, for example, if you're a few grams low in fat and a few grams high in protein, for example. It is quite hard to keep protein down. You'll find this when you're building your client's diet, that protein's in virtually everything in small amounts at least, and big amounts in some things. So protein and fat, I don't mind if a few calories are missing from fat and then are put into protein, maybe even as high as 15-20% over. The carbs, I would like us to try and get as close as we can with those, just to show you, this is the energy requirements we've decided these people need for their exercise. And 468 grams of carbs, like you see here, is quite a bit fit in. So I want you to get a feeling for how that might work in around a person's daily eating. All right, the next thing would be to draw up a calculator here. And for an active population, I think a good starting point when we're thinking about how to build a day's eating is to work with meals. And a good starting point for meals for me would be about 2/3 of daily calories for an active person who's exercising on a given day. So if we take the calorie value here, 3205, if I want 2/3 of that figure, I could times that by 0.67 or 66.666%, 2/3, and that'll give me a figure of 2147 calories. Now there's 3 good meals in a day, divide that by 3, and that means that the average meal size for this particular person should be around that 700 calorie mark. Okay, and obviously smaller people with smaller calorie loads are going to have smaller meal requirements. Okay, so we're going to use that 700 as a basis for building our day. And that's where we're going to start. We're going to start with our main meals, breakfast, lunch and dinner. And I'm going to start by going back into the diet. Okay, so I've got to go back into my client's diet here. Now, I've got 1 day that I'm using here, and you've got 4. So somewhere across those 4 days, hopefully there's a decent brekkie, a decent lunch, and a decent dinner. And even if there's not, maybe there's components of a decent lunch, breakfast, or dinner. So you might be able to take some cereal from 1 day, add a piece of fruit from another day, that kind of thing. And we should use as much of the client's diet as possible, provided those foods that we're choosing are nutritious, and that's because the client already eats them. Now, in rare situations, you're going to find diets where almost nothing is usable. The food that's put on that diet that they've been eating is wholly unsuitable for the client. But in most cases, it's about tweaking, moving stuff around, and adjusting the serving sizes and that to fit the numbers that we need. So I'm going to start here. There's nothing wrong with rolled oats, some sultana bran, and some calcium trimmed milk here. Okay, particularly if I've got an active day ahead of me. So if I look at the calorie content of that, I'm coming in about 532, so I'm a little bit short, but I'm going to take all of that and the timing, because that's when the person eats their breakfast. And what I'm going to do, go back into this blank one here, and I'm just going to paste. And you'll notice that by taking everything and then pasting in, all the colours come with it, all the ratings, all the saturated fat, all the simple carbs come across with it. Now, I think a good thing that I could add in there would be a piece of fruit. And a piece of fruit could go quite nicely with rolled oats and sultana bran. In fact, you could chuck it on top if you wish. In fact, I do in my morning brekkie. So I might go looking for a banana. And then again, I'm taking the whole lot. Oops. I'm going to whack it in. And chuck that in there. And this is going to take our calorie load up to 631. Okay. Now, I'm thinking of something else that could raise the calorie load a little here, but I'm actually looking at that as a breakfast, and I'm thinking, yeah, that's a decent whack of food there. 1.5 cups of sultana bran, a couple of rolled oats, and some milk and a medium banana. I'm going to leave that as it is for the moment. So, next meal to look at is lunch. I get a sense of the day's eating here. That lunch was about 12:30, and I'm going to use the same day, including the exercise and etc. So what I might actually do is just paste the exercise across. Now you'll have 4 days that you're looking at. Choose 1 day, an exercise day that the person's doing, and of course whack their exercise in at those points too, because that's going to help determine how we spread the calories across the day. So I've just popped those exercise sessions in, and we can keep them in mind as we're going. So I'm thinking good strong carb start to the day, 4 hours, roughly 4 hours, so just over 4 hours away from exercise, but I can still count these carbohydrates towards this exercise session here. The next intake would be at 12:30, and if you look at that, it's going to be a post-workout feed, so we've got to think of carbs and protein in this meal here. Again, I'm going to go back into the day that I already had, and I see a sandwich there with an apple and some rice crackers, so looks like a good whack of carbs. Maybe a little light on the protein, but we might be able to fix that. So let's use the basis of that meal, 12:30, copy it in, get across to here, whack that in there. There we go. If we look at the total calories of this one here, you can see 449 is a bit short. Now I look at that amount of food for a relatively big guy, 85 kilo guy, very active, a couple of workouts a day, and I think 1 sandwich, an apple and a row of rice crackers. Okay, I'm sure a guy of that size could handle that. What about something simple like doubling the sandwich? So if we just look at the figures here, what we're probably a bit short on, we've got about 15 grams of protein there, right? we've got two choices here really. We could up the meat, okay, and get some more protein into that diet, or we could, of course, double what we've got already. So if I was to go to 4 slices of the multigrain toast bread there, that would take me to 4, 71.2, and 15.6. So I just doubled everything. You'll notice how the calories changed there. Then I'm looking at the ham and I'm thinking, right, what have I got? Even if I've just done that with the bread, do I yield enough? We're getting into the 20 zone here, so yeah, simply doubling. 6 slices there, 3.4, 1.2, 8.6. Obviously the lettuce would double as well. Another little handful of lettuce there. And you can see I'm just going through and doubling all the values there. 1 becomes 2, 10 becomes 20. Let's finish these off. Okay, take a look at that now. We've come in at 737, so we've hit our 700 marker that we're looking for there. Okay. Now, there's options here. If a person looked at that and said, wow, okay, that's a lot of food. I don't know if I can handle all that food in one go. I'm pretty sure that this guy could. 85 kilo fit young active male on the back of a pretty hard circuit-based workout. I'm sure could deal with 2 sandwiches, a row of rice crackers and an apple. So I'm comfortable with that, but he may like to spread it out a little, you know, have a sandwich here and a sandwich a little later on. But we'll roll on with this for the moment. We've got 1 meal to go, dinner time, so we go beyond the gym, obviously. Dinner was happening post-gym. We go back and see what sort of time he was eating dinner on this day, and you can see it was about 6:30. So I'm going to pop in 6:30 here. So a little trick that will come in useful, team, when you're running out of rows, and you can see here for dinner, there's probably not going to be enough rows for dinner here. You can insert rows, so you just need to right-click, hit insert, entire row, and then my favourite little button there is Control Y, which means do it again. So you can see I've inserted 3 rows here. Now, the important thing is we've got to take some equation cells with us as well. So I'm going to copy 3 rows of those equation cells and I'm going to paste them in there. And I just need to check that it works by placing a 1 in the fat cell and moving it out, and it should turn to 9 calories, you can see there. So you can always tell a cell is working if the calories change when you put some numbers in. So I've got some room for DINs there. Once again, I'm going to tap into the dinner I already have on here because I don't think it was such a bad option. And again, you'll have 4 days to look at to see if you can find a good option here. So I'm looking at that dinner. It's tortillas, some veggies, some meat and a bit of sauce there, and it comes to just over 700. So very lucky for me that I can use virtually all of this. You may need to build a few things into yours depending on the quality of your person's food. Now, I'm a little unsure that that's going to fit in, so what I might just do is try it from here. Oops, wrong place. We'll go from here. Paste that in, she just fits in, so I have to put the gym back in at 4:30 in here, so PM gym. Alright, so this has some grains. Just to change things up a wee bit, you know, we should be looking at getting some more complex carbs in there, the whole grain tortilla versus a whole meal. We could even look at whole grain rice crackers there, but again, it was post-workout, so it's not so important in that bit there. We've got plenty of complex carbs happening up here anyway. Okay, so what have I achieved so far? I have achieved 2100 calories on the back of 3 virtually 700 calorie meals, so I've got some good balance going on across the meals here. Both of my meals towards the end here are post-workout meals, and that's why I don't have an issue with some decent carbohydrate on board at night time here, because I'm straight off the gym and my muscles will be wanting to suck those carbs right up post-training. So what am I left with? I'm left with 1,000 calories that need to be spread in different places around the day, and of course I've got 2 workouts that I have to take care of. So my next port of call is to go up here and work out what I'm going to do between 7 and 11:30, because 4.5 hours is quite a long time. I'm currently sitting on, if I highlight the carbs there, about 104, so I can do with a few more carbs in this part here. So I'm going to chuck in maybe halfway between this feed here, something like 10 o'clock. And that's going to give me a good hour and a half to digest whatever I have in this point here. So it would have to be relatively moderate GI going into there. So I'm diving back in here, having a look at the snacks that my client ate here. And you can see here the banana, rye crackers, no problem there. The cheese, probably not ideal prior to Monday Fitness. We'll bump up that fat content a little bit there, so we want to keep them out of it a wee bit. But something like a banana and these crispy rye crackers could work. We could find something else to put on those that isn't going to hinder the absorption of those things. So we'll simply copy these guys here, get back over to this bit here and paste them in this mid-morning phase here. So I'm thinking of I don't need a lot more carbohydrate there. I look at that total there, 150, that's plenty prior to Monday Fitness there. Maybe all I need there is or a teaspoon of, maybe 2 teaspoons of Vegemite, something like that, right? It's not going to be hugely calorie dense. It's going to put a bit of taste on those crackers, and that'll be fine. Now, where do I find that? Now, this could be a good opportunity to dive in and have a look at the concise food table tab that we've got here. So I don't have any stats for Vegemite because my client didn't have any. We'll see if we can get lucky on there. So we go Control A, which highlights the whole document, Control F, which brings up a search box here. And if I was to try my luck with Vegemite and hit Find All, it didn't like it. It didn't like where it is. Sometimes you can get away with putting little parts like veggie. It didn't like that either. Okay, so if I was to put in the word spread, it didn't like that either. So Marmite, try a few things out. Okay, and as I suspected, it's not really for these kind of things that you can easily find the label for. What I'd do in this instance, if I didn't have the Vegemite in front of me, is I'd get into Google here, Vegemite. I would look up some images. I'd see that it is Vegemite, and I'd also add the word maybe label. And maybe should have put nutrition. There we go, nutritional label. So I'm virtually looking at a jar of Vegemite here. And what can I see? Well, not much actually. We better get a clearer one. Maybe any clearer? There we go. So, what have we got? Serving size 5 grams, which is a teaspoon. I was having 2. So I look on here, it's going to yield me 2.6 grams of protein, less than a gram of fat, and less than a gram of carbs. So head back in, nice easy search there using the labels. Head back onto my sheet, I recommended, and it was 2.6 grams of protein, less than a gram. I just usually put in as something like 0.5 there. Okay, so it'd add another 16 calories. Alright, so leading into Monday Fitness, I'm having 150 odd grams of carbs for my client there. I've got a relatively low fat, if you look through that, relatively low protein on this side here, so it's a carb-based meal. Should clear in time for the workout. Post-training, I've got to make sure that I'm trying to get a gram per kilo at least of carbohydrates in. You can see there's plenty there at 124. I would argue excess, but again, we're already in the pre-exercise window for the next gym session, and I'm about 4 hours away. So this meal not only is replacing the carbs that I used up in the last session, but also preparing for the next session there. I'm also trying to get 20 to 30 grams of protein into that feed. You can see at 27 grams at the sum down here that I'm hitting that target quite nicely. If I go down now, have a look at the bottom. Again, I've got a running total of what's going on. So I'm 800 calories short, 20 grams of fat short, 123 grams of carbs short, and 41 grams of protein short for my daily intake here. And I've still got the hours between 12:30 and 6:30 available, so a 6-hour window here. The obvious thing to do here is that the workout is 4 hours after that one. I need a sort of midpoint in here. So I might look at a 2:30. I might even look at a small 2:30 p.m. I might even look at a small 3 p.m. Snack in here just to make sure I'm topped up and ready to go for the gym workout there. Again, let's dive into the client's days and see what there are. So, always a fan of a piece of fruit. You could maybe double up on another row of rice crackers there, sorry. Jump into the workout here. If I was to whack those two things in there, got an apple and some rice crackers in here, and it takes our total yield of carbs again up to around that 150 mark prior to exercise. Okay, so heading down, we are getting a bit closer here. Okay, with the 674 calories to go, and like I say, this is a fairly energetic person of a reasonable weight that we're talking about here, who's really trying to build muscle and get the best out of their workouts. So yes, it is a lot of food, but this is what we've determined they need based on their calculations. About this point, I start thinking, well, what do I need? What do I need to balance out this diet a little more? Okay, I've still got a bit of protein to play with. The obvious next thing I look at is, what about post-training? I noticed on my clients' diet intake that they had a protein shake post-intake, and we've got plenty of room for protein in the diet. So if I went in and selected the same protein powder that they were using here, the one consideration I would give though is in that post-exercise window, again, the replenishment of the carbs at this point here. And yep, there's some carbs coming later on in the day as well, but that immediate phase, maybe a little bit of simple carbs, that kind of thing in there. Personally, this is where I start to think to myself, well, what would I have in that sort of space there? I've had plenty of, the rice crackers and the breads and those kind of things there. Something easily absorbable. For me, I have a go-to, which is a Pam's chocolate creamed rice. Fairly high GI sort of food there, going to clear pretty quickly. And what we're looking for, if you remember, is about 1 gram per kilo of carbohydrates in that 1 hour window after. And I can tell you that this particular one, I've got it sitting right in front of me here, has 85 grams of carbs, just 2.5, sorry, that's the wrong way, 7 grams of fat, 7.2 grams of fat, and it also has 9 grams of protein. So what I'm getting as a yield there is 29 grams of protein, so there's my 30 grams of protein hit. I'm getting my gram per kilo of carbohydrates, and if we look down the bottom here, I've achieved my carb targets, and a lot of these carbs have come in between, before, in between, and immediately after the time of exercise. And you can see that at the nighttime carbs there's a total of 66 sort of grams of carbs coming in from about 6:30, and that's the end of the eating for the day at that point. Alright, so I'm certainly going to look to replenish my carbohydrate stores. This is not a weight loss person who's looking to avoid putting on body fat overnight. This is a person who's used their muscles vigorously in a couple of workouts today and is looking to replenish them before he does the same thing again tomorrow. Okay, so I'm 140 short. I'm just shy on protein. I've got a little bit of fat to play with there. Now, what did I say I was going to do in my recommendations? Now, obviously, if I have a look at my count ups here, I've got plenty of grains. You can see there 1, 2, 3.5, 4.5, or more. There is 8.5, 9, 10. I'm at 10 plus. Okay, I'm looking at in terms of fruit and veg. A banana, 2 bananas. There's 2, 2 and a bit, 3 and a bit, 4 and a bit, 5 and a bit, 6 to 7. Okay, so I'm in the right zone there for those. Oops, I just forgot to highlight my cream rice there. Okay, and I could add probably a quarter to half of a dairy serve in there for that one too. And that's the thing I'm noticing that I'm probably down on a little. I've got 1 serve of dairy there, and I should probably get another one in. Okay, so I had that 3 o'clock sort of zone there. I was looking for something light and quite easily absorbed, and this might be a good time for something like a bottle of yogurt. Okay, so I need the values for a bottle of yogurt. I could try the concise food tables, but it's better to get it from a better source than that. Here's some yogurt here. If I was to chuck in Meadow Fresh, and hopefully the site comes up and we go to the range of products. So often the best place to go is to the actual site itself. Okay, if I was to get in there, what am I looking for? I am looking for just normal yogurt. I'm not finding it. Yogurt, no, it was the Greek yogurt. Okay, so here's sort of a standard yogurt, I guess. Let's say I went for a passion one there. You get the nutritional information straight off the website here, so it's often the best place to go. Just remember as well, once you have done this a few times, you have a database of client information that you know you have accurate information on, you can tip into different clients' diet logs and essentially steal the facts out of those. Okay, so 125 serving pot was what I was thinking of there. So we can see there's 3.3 grams of fat, 15.8 for carbs, and 5.3. 3.3, 15.8, 5.3. Back into here. See how good the memory is. 15.8, 5.3, and of course I had to have forgotten one, didn't I? The fat is 3.3. And there we go. I've got my serves of dairy, I've got my fruit and veg up to point, I've got loads of grains in there as well. I'm looking at 2 to 3 serves of meat, which is fine. And I have no crap essentially in there except for little bits and pieces in there. And some would argue things like cream rice and that are low nutritional value, but immediately post-training I don't have an issue with that. If I look at my numbers now, I'm 26 calories off my target, I'm slightly under in fat, slightly over in carbs, slightly under in protein. I have no issues with being off by just that much. The next thing I need to check is the things that I've added. Do they add things like saturated fat? In this case here, yeah, there's a little bit more there in the cream rice. The pot of yogurt has a little as well. But I've also taken out things like the cheese and that kind of stuff, so it should balance out quite nicely. And I'm seeing nothing else there. So a quick add up of these things, 3 to 4 to 10 to 13, 14, 21, 5, 26, 30. Yep. So less than half saturated fat there. Again, relatively happy with that. In terms of simple carbs, the cream rice would have to add into the simple carbs there. Oops, get the right colour. Just going up. Yogurt would have to also get into the simple carbs side of things there. The rice crackers are in there already. Yeah, so that's about it. Looking at that, 13, half of this figure here, 47, 58. About 60, 80, 100, 120 odd, 160 odd, 170, 180, 185 out of 482 is a pretty good balance of simple to complex carbs there. Again, pretty happy. Okay, so I'm looking at my mix of carbs, protein and fat. You can see it's pretty close to what I've actually said because I've got my numbers almost bang on in terms of the amounts of fat, carbs and protein that I need there. The last step that I'd do, guys, is I'd go back and check my recommendations. So you would have a full list here. My client could try and refrain from eating too many high-calorie, low-nutrition snacks. I'm pretty confident I've achieved that recommendation. There's no late-night snack. The client is eating about 300 excess calories a day. I've fixed that. When we talked about excess fat, I'm now under in fat. Okay, and any of the other issues that I'd sort of brought up, I would expect you to have fixed over that time. So there's an example of how to build a day. I've been pretty lucky with my client because they were already eating quite well. You might have to make some more drastic changes to some of your other clients' diets when you're building this day. And if you do and you're looking for things to build, I just want to reiterate the use of this food table here. So for things like fruit and veggies and lean cuts of meat, etc., it's excellent. You can go Control A, Control F. Let's say I'm looking for chicken. I whack in chicken. I have Find All. If I pull out from the corner here, it has every reference. This one has Find All. There we go. Every reference to chicken from eggs. And I'm looking for chicken breast, so I just come on down. There's my chicken breast that's grilled. If I click on it, it takes me directly to it in the document here. Chicken breast grilled. Okay, if I was to go down one, you would see here that it shows, chicken breast grilled, 100 grams worth, with the figures along the top here of fat, carbs and protein. That's what I'm after, 4.6 grams of fat, no carbs, and 31.2 grams of protein. It does suggest a single breast, but we'd have to know the weight of the chicken breast that we're weighing there. Okay, so it's got everything. You see your chicken breast roasted, fat and skin on, roasted in the oven, all kinds of ways of cooking. So a lot of fruits and vegetables, meats and those kind of things that you can't find on the labels from the manufacturers and stuff are quite useful. I'll just show you one more example here. If I look for an apple, hit the Find All, there's every reference to an apple in there. I'm after not after cider, apple, flesh, skin, raw, combined varieties, just to give me an overview there. Takes me into the fruits. There's my apples, and it says one fruit about 7 centimeters diameter or 100 grams worth, and I can grab the stuff straight out. And the cool thing about this, you can actually copy the fat, carbs, protein, go back into your recommended diet page, for example, and you can essentially paste it. And if I use an example here, I can just paste that directly in, and it will transfer the calories across for me. Alright team, so that's in a nutshell, a quite long nutshell, I admit. It took a bit longer than I thought it would there, but hopefully you find that useful. Hopefully you've been pausing your way as you go through, and it's been able to give you a good overview. Remember, we have been talking about this stuff in class. This is just so when you're away from me, you can tap into this video at any point and see what's going on. Hope it's helpful. Cheers. Catch you.